Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, my dear students. I hope you will be safe at your homes with the people you love. Last time we discussed the first part of research methodology, and we discussed what is research. We discussed that research is a actually process which is systematic and scientific for collection, analysis, and interpretation of data. Because you want to find the solution of a problem. You want to go from unknown to known. The research is also traditionally searching again. Then we discussed there are two types of research. One is qualitative and other is quantitative. Qualitative is measured in words. Here you generate the hypothesis, you study the opinions, attitudes, various perceptions of the people, and normally this is done in the anthropology and other social sciences. But here you generate a hypothesis. Whereas in case of quantitative research, it is which we usually do in the medical, it is measured in the numbers, and here you not generate the hypothesis, but you test the hypothesis. So you also apply the statistical analysis for analyzing your results. So this is the basic difference between the qualitative and quantitative research. And quantitative research, further we study the various types of quantitative research. Then there is a experimental research or experimental study design in which you do the intervention. Then there may be quasi-experimental study in which there is no randomization. Then you can do the surveys, cross-sectional studies. Then there might be analytical research where you see the association between risk factor and disease. So these are various types of quantitative research. And then we study that if while selecting the topic of your research, what factors you should consider. And we discussed that FINER is the abbreviation which is used for selection of your research topic. FINER means topic should be fine. It should be interesting to supervisor as well as your researcher as well as to the scientific community, and then it should be novel. It should be add new knowledge, and then E for ethical. It must be ethical especially if you do the research on the human beings or the experimental animals, and then though must also R mean it must be relevant to the interest of the supervisor as well as to the researcher as well as relevant to your field and area. Similarly, then we discuss the research question. Normally before you start your research, you formulate some research question, and research question first you make broad and then you narrow down so that you get the relevant articles, and that is the criteria of the topic and research question. Both criteria same, final. It must be final. So then we discuss the research objectives, and objectives we discuss that these are the statements which are given what you want to do and how will you do. So it must be the criteria for selecting objectives is the SMARTs. It must be specific objective. Your objective must be specific. It must be measurable. It must be relevant, and it must be realistic. It must be time bound. So these are the criteria of selecting a research question. Objectives. Then we also discuss the hypothesis from objectives. Normally in every study but especially in the descriptive study, a hypothesis is normally in experimental studies or analytical study, case control and cohort studies. So there might be both objectives and the hypothesis in your study. So today we'll discuss the second part of the, now before we go discuss the second part or such methodology, I want to make clear, you will get one SEQ from research methodology part 1 in your first module examination. So these are the learning objectives of today's discussion. Before you carry out your study, you design a questionnaire for collecting data, you have to decide which variable you want to study and then what is variable. Then we will discuss inshallah what is questionnaire, how we design the questionnaire, and what are the types of questions, what are components of questionnaire if you design yourself, and what is study pro forma, and then of course data collection, data coding and entry in SPSS. Then we will have this short discussion on synopsis. What is synopsis? A research proposal which you write before you are writing article for getting ethical approval from the institution review board, ethical review committee. Then that is also work plan and budgeting, also part of the research proposal, a synopsis. And work plan in which you give the timeline that in this, on this date, on this month, I will do the data collection, then I will do the analysis, then I will write the article, then I will submit the article, etc. Then if it is a funding research, then what amount of budget is required for your study. So then the, especially what will be the ethical aspects of conducting research, especially on the human beings and the experimental animals. Then what is plagiarism, and what are these types of the plagiarism? It is also offense if you use the ideas or words of the other person in your research and you don't give credit to that person, then it is a plagiarism. So we can discuss one by one. Variables are characteristics we already discussed, maybe of individuals or things which can be measured, assessed, or observed. And variables may be quantitative or qualitative. It may be age, gender, height, weight, serum cholesterol, body weight, BMI, etc. Then in experimental study or analytical studies, there are also are called variables, also called dependent variables. Independent variable is one which is manipulated by the researcher. For example, smoking causes lung cancer. So in this smoking is independent variables. Dependent variable changes the result of researcher's manipulation. That is called dependent variable. For example, this lung cancer is a dependent variable. Similarly, if you administer some drug and do the drug trials of two drugs in experimental study, the drugs which you use give to the study participant, that is independent variable. And the outcome which you see as a result of that is dependent variable. Then there are demographic variables, age, gender, race, occupation, income. You have to give in your questionnaire, in your study also demographic variable. That are also important. So once you decide, first you must know also the steps of research. In steps of research, we studied that first you decide the topic or your research problem, then you formulate a research question. Then after you formulate a research question, you do the literature review or literature search. Number 3, you do the literature search. And in the literature search, so that you want to find the gap in the knowledge, and you want to fulfill that gap. You want to see, sometimes it also helps in selection of your topic, and you want to also see that whether there is duplication. Already a lot of work has been done on the topic which you have selected, so you will now select other topic. So literature search also helps in giving references. You have to give references in introduction and discussion. That it also helps. Now, where you have to do the literature search, there are various search engines. A search for literature is essential before deciding whether research is worth doing and what the gaps are that need to be addressed. So that is important. So why research literature? Knowledge about recent advances you come to know. You identify suitable research topics sometimes. If you are not deciding what should on which topic I should do the research, then sometimes literature search also helps. And then it also avoids duplication of the research. Already, if a lot of work has been done on the topic which you have selected, then of course you will try to avoid that topic. Then you will come to know understanding of the work done in the past by the other researchers. Then you also give the evidence for research that is planned, then provide discussion for the topic. So these are the, now where to search. Normally Google Scholar is a very important source which gives you lot of articles, research articles, reference articles. So PakMediNet is the Pakistani site of Pakistani medical journals. Then PubMed is also very famous, you already know. MedIndia, freemedicaljournal.com, freebooksfordoctors.com, Amro, WHOINT, so many sites. EMB, EM-based, plus HEC digital libraries, UHS and ComStats. We have also a facility of digital library here in the college also. You can also go and work for your research. Then most commonly used medical applications are Google, Wikipedia, WebMD, Medscape, PubMed, Google Scholar, etc. So if you search in the PubMed, these are the Boolean operators which you can use. For example, and, or not. And means find article where both terms appear. For example, smoking cessation. Or means find article where either term appears, smoking or tobacco. Not find article where only one term appears, for smoking, not cessation. So similarly like that, these are called Boolean operators. This is the way of searching literature on PubMed. Education and literacy both. I want article in which both these terms are used. Then on education are one of them, and only education and not literacy. So now synopsis protocol is a brief outline of your future work. Usually 3 to 4 pages, 1,000 words. This you write before writing a dissertation or writing an article, doing research to get the ethical approval from the research committee of the institute or institution review board. So you require to write a research, a synopsis, about 4 pages, 1,000 words, and you also design questionnaire attached with it. You also attach in informed consent form with it. Then you submit, and then you, after you getting the ethical approval, then you start your research. So brief outline of your future work, whether dissertation, thesis, or research article. Development of research proposal is first step taken prior to the initiation of any research project. About 4 A4 size pages or 1,000 words, and tense usually, because you have to do the research, you will use the future tense. Every research should have a written research protocol. It is essential if the study involves research on human subjects, especially, or on experimental animals, in order to get the institution's ethical approval. Is every now medical journal asks ethical approval letter. That is important. Is essential component or research proposal submit, especially for funding. If you want your research is funded, so it is you have to write a research protocol. Now these are the differences between synopsis, thesis, dissertation, or thesis you write in the as a part of your postgraduate work in MPhil and PhD. Dissertation you write in the FCPS. Synopsis I have already told you, and research article which you will write inshallah soon. Title in all is there, abstract or summary. In synopsis is not. In thesis, dissertation, and research article, there is abstract. In summary is normally in thesis or dissertation. Introduction is in all. Review of literature you do, but you do not write the review of literature is a separate heading in synopsis. In thesis dissertation, yes, important research article, usually it is given in the introduction. Then objectives in all, hypothesis in synopsis or thesis dissertation may be, and research article may or may not be. Then material methods is in all, results in synopsis, because we still have you to carry out the research. So in synopsis, there is no result, no discussion, no conclusion, only references. Appendixes are normally present in synopsis, where you attach your questionnaire, study performa, or and the consent form, or sometimes CV of the researcher and supervisor. And research articles normally maybe, but normally appendix or annexes is not required. So this is the structure of the research protocol and synopsis. You can memorize with the name of the tester. Tester means test team stands for title. I mean introduction. S mean subjects and methods or methodology, time frame, and funding. Then E mean ethical and administrative consideration, and you get ethical approval. R means references. So material method, major difference from research article is that in research articles, these subheadings are not given separately. They are given in the form of the paragraph. This cross section was carried out in CMH Lahore Medical College from such and such date, and sample size was suppose 400, and convenient sampling was used, or random sampling were used, and these were inclusion criteria, and then the data was collected, following variable was studied, etc. So data will be was analyzed like this. Ethical informed consent was taken. Ethical approval was. So you write in a paragraph form in the such article, but in the protocol or in synopsis, you give the separate headings under the material methods. So ethical considered written approval ethical review committee in our college institution review board. In some institution there is ethical review committee for getting ethical approval. The written form for informed consent must also be attached with the protocol or synopsis. So another format of protocol, sometimes especially for funding purpose, you require the project summary. Title is also synopsis in protocol also. Project description, rationale, objectives, methodology, data management analysis, ethical consideration, references, etc. Patient definition is required in synopsis, by which a disease or condition can be identified and measured in the defined population with degree of accuracy. Definition of exposure, for example, you say smoking causes lung cancer, then you have to define smoking is exposure and the outcome is your lung cancer. Then how will you define lung cancer? How will you define smoking? So you have to give the patient definition, by which it is not a dictionary definition. Dictionary definition is not because the dictionary definition is different. The definition by which you can measure the outcome or exposure or disease or efficacy, that is different. So spells out clear criteria by which disease can be measured. For example, anemia, you can say it defined that the hemoglobin is less than 11 gram per deciliter, I will label him anemic. These are do's and don'ts of patient definition. In operation definition, tell the criteria. You must tell the criteria. How will you measure? How will you diagnose? How will you label? How will you assess variables outcomes? If you have used word efficacy, then how will you measure efficacy? And safety, especially if you have used word safety of the participant, how will you measure safety, etc. So don'ts of patient definition: don't use the dictionary definition and non-measurable criteria. You must use the measurable criteria in a patient definition. For example, in infection, dictionary definition: infection is the invasion of the organism's body tissues by disease-causing agents. They are multiplication, a reaction of host tissue to the infectious agents and the toxin they produce. This is the dictionary definition. But you cannot measure infection with this in your research. So this is the real definition infection, so by which you can measure if at least one of the following factors: purulent discharge from the incision or abscess found, culture of the fluid or tissue taken from the wound positive for organism. One of the signs is symptom infection, which are pain and tenderness, swelling, warmth, tenderness, and infusion. So this is the real definition by which you can measure the infection. Then you also give the work schedule, a timeline in your study. Is table that summarizes the task to be performed in the research project, the duration of each activity. This is the other major difference from the research article. In a research article, you do not give the timeline or schedule because you have already done the research. But in the synopsis, you give the timeline, logistics, resources, facilities, including budget, etc. This is the timeline, a Gantt chart, activity to perform, and along with in which month you will do the data collection, data analysis, then writing articles, then summation of the article, the thesis, etc. You have to give the timeline. Similarly, this is again a timeline: approval from institution review board in October, then permission from concerned party to collect data, again October, collection of data, then data entry and analysis in November, preliminary report presented to supervisor, then public defense of such finding, and final submission in case of thesis in December. So budget, you have to, if there is a funding research, then you have to justify your budget, fuel and travel charges. For example, 15 days you want to travel, then 20 kilometers per day, 4,000. Then performance protocol print, 4,000 PKR, for example, like that. Then miscellaneous charges. This is just a example. You may have more budget, you may have less budget. Then what are various methods of data collection? By observation, especially in case of the qualitative research, and by interview, questionnaire, databases, etc. Questionnaire may be self-administered questionnaire, interview administered question. You can administer yourself and take the answers, or you can hand over to the study participant to fill that questionnaire. Especially nowadays, as you do the online through Google your research. So these are self-administered questions. Then questions can be closed-ended questions in your questionnaire with a limited choice of answer, easy to analyze. Open-ended questions have space allocated for recording whatever response is provided. Difficult to analyze, but they are difficult to do. And try to keep closed-ended questions as much as possible in your questionnaire because they are easy to analyze. Finding from clinical examination, you can also use pulse rate, BP, skin rash, enlarged liver, cataract. Then data from lab investigation and clinical test, you can also use audiometry as you have been using in the first year, second year in physiology. So these are also one type of the data. Then data you can obtain from medical records in the hospital to gain clue concerning disease etiology association. For example, you want to do the case control study between this, for example, high serum cholesterol and the heart disease. You can go to the cardiac center, you can get the medical records of 3 to 4 or 5 years, and then you can find out that the patient with ischemic heart disease, whether they were high cholesterol or not, and those who are angiography negative, what was them? Then you can control and what was the level of cholesterol in that. Then data from literature review, internet nowadays, then qualitative research data, observation in qualitative research, use of portable tape records, open-ended question. Normally they use the open-ended question, use of focus groups. So data collection instrument, questionnaire or study performer, both you can use either of them. The search must attach with synopsis as annex the performer questionnaire with the help which he, she intend to collect data. Similarly, you have to attach the questionnaire with your research project after you will complete your research project and submit to your supervisor. You must attach the questionnaire with your research project. Then you must also establish validity and reliability of your, because often when you submit your research article for some medical journal, then reviewer normally asks that the instrument questionnaire which you have used to collect the data, what is its reliability, what is its validity. So you have to Validity you can establish by from the experts, by taking opinion on your question from the experts, or by doing the pilot study. Similarly, reliability you can calculate with the help of the SPSS. So SPS will tell whether your reliability is 70%, 80%, 90%. Usually 80% above is good. As up to 70% safety below is not good. So question before question is constructed, the variable is designed. It is designed to measure the should be listed. The variable you must list it before you construct a questionnaire. To ensure compatibility with other studies, questionnaire may be borrowed from other sources. Normally, sometimes you can get questionnaire from the you can borrow questionnaire from the net. You can get the already prepared questionnaire on that topic. But in that case, you must get the written permission by writing mail to that author. That is also ethically important to use that questionnaire. In what are component questionnaire? There are 5 components of questionnaire. First is the introductory statement, where you have to tell the purpose, eventual use of study, statement of confidentiality, anonymity, instruction for filling questionnaire. Then second part of the questionnaire usually consists of demographic question: age, gender, education, marital status, occupation, etc. Then you ask the factual question. For example, if your study related to smoking, you will ask, do you smoke? Answer may be yes or no. Then opinion question after the demographic and factual question. These are normally open-ended questions. What is your opinion about the standard of education, for example, in CMH Lahore Medical College? So you can ask opinion question also. Then closing statement and return instruction you must give. That is the last part of your questionnaire. You must thank respondents for their participation, provide information on how to return the questionnaire. It is best to avoid complicated structure in your questionnaire. For example, many conditional questions such as if you answered yes to question 6 and no to question 9, then please answer question 10. So these type questions normally irritate the participants, so they will not like to answer these questions. Then important rule while preparing questionnaire, question must be short and easily understood. You must pre-code all possible answers to a question. Then start with before you enter data in the SPSS. Then start with easy question. Then leave plenty of space. Pre-test the questionnaire with a small group of intended participants, which is called the pilot study. So if there are any problems with the questionnaire to understand the question, you can rectify it. Then revise the questionnaire. So open-ended question and interview question that encourage an answered phrase and respondents onward. Yes, no, true, false, etc. Close, no, sorry, this is not in which you ask what is your opinion, what is your opinion about, for example, standard of education, CML or medical college. So these are open-ended questions. Close-ended questions and interview questions that ask the respondent to make selection from the limited list of the responses, for example, yes, no, etc. Then there are scaled response questions like Likert scale. That is also close-ended question designed to measure the intensity of respondent's answer. So open-ended question, how do you feel, for example, about the standard of treatment you received while you were patient at this hospital? Close-ended question, how would you rate the standard of treatment you received while you were a patient at this hospital? Excellent, good, moderately good, fair, poor, etc. So you can ask like that. Likert scale is attitudinal question, traditional 5 or 7-point Likert scale format. Strongly agree, agree, neutral, disagree, strongly. These are also nowadays commonly used for collecting data. The appendix of synopsis must include CV of researcher, supervisor, sample data collection instrument, questionnaire, study performer, informed consent form. Now the research ethics. No research protocol is complete or acceptable if it does not discuss the ethical aspect of study involving human subjects or especially experimental animals. Institutional ethical review committee or institutional review board will require you must discuss the ethical aspects of your research. Now the basic ethical principles are beneficence. Where the research involves experimentation in human subjects, every effort should be made to maximize the benefits to the subjects. Non-maleficence, subjects should suffer no harm. Respect participation in research should be completely voluntary and based on informed consent. Privacy should be protected by ensuring confidentiality. Justice, distributive justice, participation in research should correlate with the expected benefits. No population group should carry an undue burden of research for the benefit of another group. Normally, developed countries do research in developing countries and they use that research in for their own people. So that is unethical. Informed consent is self-determination, freedom of choice to participate or not. The research participant be fully informed about the purpose of research, any risk associated with their participation, and the users to which the collected research data will be put. Their participation must be fully voluntary and made with full knowledge of any potential benefits and cost. An informed consent document must be attached. Then scientific excellence and quality. Proposed research should be of high scientific quality and address research questions that have not been already answered. Researchers have the qualification to conduct the work and whether the scientific rationale for the work is so. Only qualified person should do the research, especially on the human beings and the animals. Now, if you, we have also made it in the ethical review, institution review board policy that students, if students are doing research, they must have some supervisor, and ethical approval letter only be issued to the supervisor, not the student. So that is important that only qualified person along with students can do the research. It is unethical to expose subject to research not scientifically sound if the researcher not scientifically not performed by qualified investigator in qualified facilities, not likely to provide valid scientific answers. Minimizing risk or harm to the participant, confidentiality and right to privacy, ensuring that people's private information not disclosed as a result of their participation in the study. So lack of conflict of interest occurs when an individual or agency is potentially able to exploit their involvement. For example, some pharmaceutical company may ask you to do the research on their drugs, and they will normally expect favorable results. So that also comes where the conflict of interest comes. So participant-related ethics, there must ensure safety for the participant. There should be no harm. You must ensure the confidentiality of their data. Privacy must respect, informed consent, certificate of confidentiality, picture, video, personal information. You must get permission before taking that. Plagiarism is the using the ideas or words of another person without giving appropriate credit. That's a plagiarism. It may be in the form of stealing. If you take a sentence, even a unique turn of phrase, and pass it off on as your own without giving credit, it is also plagiarism. Patchworking, using words or phrases from a source text that may or may not be acknowledged and patching them together into new sentences. Insufficient paraphrasing, taking the author's words and changing them slightly without putting the actual text is plagiarism. So plagiarism detection, now their software, if you when you submit the article to some medical journal, they have software. They normally check plagiarism, or you can call it index of similarity, and if it is 19% or 20% or more, then normally they say it is plagiarism. They return the article and ask to rectify. This is again software to check the plagiarism, and this is again other software you can check yourself. Writecheck.com. You sign up, make account, log in, purchase credit. It will cost you $4 to $5. Then you can pay from the credit card, submit document, and within 5 minutes you will get the results whether how much similarity index is in your articles. So critical appraisal of research, strong points and limitation of article. You must check the study design, must be appropriate. Then key methodological elements of the design, then statistical methods used should be appropriate. Significant research to one's own practice. Does the study contribute to existing knowledge? Interpretation of findings has been carried correctly. Then potential conflict of interest. So these are the things which should be checked in the article. Then criteria of good research: purpose clearly defined, research process must be detailed, research design thoroughly planned, high ethical standard applied, limitations frankly revealed of your study and in the end of the discussion, adequate analysis for decision maker need, finding presented, conclusion justified, research experience reflected, etc. So help in writing, author aid is a very good site. This website has hundreds of tutorials in writing, medical writing. It is all free. So you can get the help. Then clinicaltrial.com. Then take home messages. Credit to all who are contributing in the creation of a research environment. Nobody can stop us from doing research. It is long-term investment, hence a long-term process. So scientists with publication are these, and scientists without publication are doctors without publication, doctors with publication. So this is a difference here. So thank you very much. That's all for today. If you have, do you have any questions or comments?
No, sir.
You don't have any questions, comments? Okay. I already told you they will get one SQ from such methodology, especially the first part of the methodology. So must go through it. And the date for first module still has not been finalized. Likely they will communicate first date, which I told you that community medicine paper will be on the Friday. That has been changed. Now we are expecting that today the Department of Medical Education will notify the date of the first module examination, and as soon as they communicate, and you will also come to know, and we will also communicate to you. So thank you very much. You must also work on your research projects. You must contact with your supervisors, get the questionnaire, and then start collecting data. You must also nominate research coordinator, 4 or 5 from each batch. You must give names to my PA so that I must notify the name of the research coordinators. Okay. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, then you can discuss with me, or you can ask through your WhatsApp group also. Thank you.